Where did Against start? What was that play's gestation? Where did it all come from?
I had been talking to Rob Ike for a while, actually, when he and Rupert were at Headlong, about writing something, and I guess we just sort of, kept a kind of very loose, casual conversation going, and then we met in the fall of, I think it was October 2013, and I guess when a theater wants to commission me, I always like to kind of hear what they're looking for. Is there any kind of subject or theme or kind of general principle? Just because I feel like, I want to know the context that I'll be writing the play in. It's not just me, whatever's happening in my mind, but there's already a kind of feeling of some kind of collaboration happening. And I just remember Rob sort of cycling through some different ideas, and some of them maybe I think were adaptations of famous novels, and somehow we got onto Jesus as an idea. And that was exciting for me because I had been reading about Jesus for years, particularly focused on violence and Jesus' message of nonviolence. And I just kept talking, I believe. And I remember meeting Rupert in New York in early summer 2014. And I was still thinking about this idea, and he and I talked about it. And it started to generate some momentum artistically for me, and then between the Almeida and my agent. And by the end of the year, we had a commission. And in the spring of 2015, I was starting to really write. And the play wasn't about Jesus, but the idea of nonviolence and how a message of nonviolence lives in a world like ours was what really had seized my imagination. And so, I kind of started writing in the spring of 2015. And towards the end of that year is when it really sort of exploded artistically for me. And I think right before Christmas, I sent Rob the first draft of the play.
Yeah. Had it always been about a single protagonist that we followed throughout, or did that kind of develop and change throughout your
That had
process?
actually always been there. I think, I got some notes from Rob, I believe on New Year's Day, 2016, if I recall. And Rupert, I forget exactly when I talked to Rupert about the play, but we did a reading, kind of a couple days rehearsed reading in November, right before the election, so November 2016. At that point, the play was significantly the same structurally as it is now, except that the central protagonist, Luke, was a little more elusive in the drama. So the sort of other stories, the places he goes and the people he visits with, those stories had a little more centrality. And I think at that point in the writing of it, I felt like, well, part of what this play is saying is that we have to look at all kinds of violence. And, I was thinking maybe if you have too much of a kind of central protagonist, that limits or minimizes other stories in a way that has a kind of violence to it. So what if I try to write something that's like a real ensemble play? There's still somebody in the center, but the ensemble stories are really primary. And I think what we found in that reading was it actually would be nice to have a bit more of a kind of central anchor in the protagonist. So some of the stories receded a little, and Luke, as the protagonist of the play, kind of intensified and took over a bit more. And so then, finding that balance was part of the rewrite I did after that reading of, okay, how do I build this character, make him a stronger protagonist, but preserve what I really liked about the play, which is that these other worlds are very vivid and the people are very real.
Yeah. Do you find that editing process something quite collaborative? Would you always, see it workshopped and then go away and edit? Would you edit as you go along? What's that process
I like
for
to, I think you have to have a balance between what do you think the play is for you, me as the writer, what do I think the play is? I know the play better than anybody else. I know what I want to explore more than anyone else. But theater is collaborative, and so you have to work with your collaborators to find the best expression. And I think if you err too much on either side, then things can get distorted. If you just think you know everything, then it's not collaborative. or if you follow every whim of your collaborators, it's no longer your play necessarily. So try to hold both those things in tension. This is what I think, this is what I feel, and here's what people I respect are saying and thinking, and how do I, integrate all these different points of view in a way that's coherent and compelling, the play really, I was really just thinking about how do people even think about nonviolence, especially in America, I mean, everywhere, but, we have a quite a violent culture, not just the sort of obvious things like gun violence and racism and police violence and stuff, but there's violence of people who hurt each other in love, and there's violence and power dynamics in education and the workplace, and it's not I don't feel it's a very peaceful culture, and it's not a culture where I would say the best parts of religious tradition are kind of realized on a daily basis. So I thought, well, what happens to a culture if you do try to introduce a nonviolent way of thinking in a really meaningful and new way, in a way that actually could, capture people's imaginations? What would the reaction be? And I think one thing that's exciting about doing the play now is that sort of what the play is trying to explore within itself, sort of now what we're feeling, with audiences. So the play itself is trying to do that also. It's trying to introduce an idea and see how do people react and how do people feel about it. So that sort of mirrored what we've been doing within the play is now sort of mirrored by performing it and having an audience. And that's certainly a very exciting aspect of it.
What do you think it is about theatre that allows you to kind of ask and interrogate those questions and themes and ideas that maybe other art forms would do differently? Or
Well, I think part of it is just that it's live, so it's, there's immediacy to it. I mean, you have to write a play obviously well before you are performing it. But nevertheless, it is immediate. You're taking in the world every day as you rehearse it and then as you perform it. So even if you wrote it a year before, you're receiving the energies of the moment in the culture. So that's just very exciting. And often you find things resonate that maybe weren't explicitly, there's not an explicit link between what's happening in the play and what's happening in the news, but there's some maybe subterranean link, or there's just some kind of evocative similarity, and that just starts to, carry an energy with it. So I think that just the fact that you're performing a play in real time and space, the kind of energy in the world at that moment ends up often somewhere on the stage and kind of finds places in the text to really resonate. What's great about the theater is you can always just be responsive to whatever's happening, whatever you perceive, whether it's out in the world, whether it's in the rehearsal room, it's in an actor, it's in a moment of debate, in rehearsals. You're able to just take it all in and find a place for it, or find the way it impacts, whether it's text or performance or production. It's all in the mix and it's all there to be used.
Do you find sometimes when you're writing it's almost, I've gone almost not subtle enough or too subtle with this idea?
I never think I'm a subtle writer, and then people are like, he's so subtle, and I'm like, I don't know. So I try to, I don't know if this is actually true. I remember a writing teacher a long time ago telling me that Hitchcock said, if you're in doubt about whether to make something explicit or implicit, make it explicit. I have no idea actually if Hitchcock said that, or my teachers made it up, or I'm misremembering it. But I know he said, the teacher said that. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. My impulse would always be the opposite. Say, oh no, make it implicit. So I always do try to remember that sometimes actually you do just need to be really direct and just say it, go for it, make it really big and bold. But yeah, usually I prefer things that, leave the audience something to really work on, and think about. And I think it's more fun as an audience member if you feel activated and you need to put things together for yourself. So I try to kind of give the maximum that you need to be able to do that. If you don't give enough, then it's just confusing, or it feels hidden or shielded. To me, if you give too much, then you're not, audience has very little to do. So just kind of try to find that balance.